Okay, should we start?
Yeah.
Last session, this first day of the bootcamp. How have your day been? I hope you have some energy left. I will do my presentation on a cluster. This is a really community-driven presentation. BSI is not supporting this more than allowing me to present it, I would say. It's a basic approach, so if you're more into the advanced management of Kubernetes and clusters, this is not an advanced session, but more a basic. I will show some. So if you would like to change your mind, please do so now. I will talk a little bit about myself, then we go to the background. We also, just a little yabba yabba about the future problem. There's many problems ahead of us and how to solve my problem as I see it. And then we do a demonstration using open source tools and community licensed softwares. So about myself, I live here in Malmö, or Brinnen. I'm 37 years old now, and or young, I'll say it. I don't really recall my age yet. I've been working for this enterprise Teracloud Energy Machines fully since 2015. Before that, I was consultant for 3 years almost during my studies on Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm, studying Master of Science Embedded Systems. I did my first OpenVMS bootcamp already in 2017, and outside the Bolton office. I don't know how many of you were there. Yeah, some of you. And I did a talk there with Brett Cameron about the next generation SCADA. The next generation SCADA is what I'm still doing full time and have been doing that since. And I would still say that we are still the next generation SCADA, even though it's closer to 10 years we have been doing this. I will come back to that in the background because some of the slides we showed then they're relevant still. I'm also the chapter leader of the HP Connect Sweden, the Connect community in Sweden. I've been so since 2023, part of the board since 2017. And 2018, I hosted a VMS SIG special interest group session here in Malmö as well. How many of you were here then? Yeah, some of you more. And during that session, I was talking about LSP and the upcoming editors like Visual Code. Yeah, you know the story, right? What happened after that? I also hosted okay. Oh no, it's the project. Okay, sorry. I also hosted a VMS SIG here in Malmö last year, but I didn't do any presentation at all. It was VSI doing all the talk and Mime. Some of you also in that. So let's get into the background or history. This was the summary of the slides we had on the OpenVMS Bootcamp 2017, the 40 years anniversary. And I used in bold there, we had the clustering, which as you all know about OpenVMS is a really strong mechanism of VMS, and I believe why it also still exists. And then we also have security and high availability, but also OpenVMS has a good track record in hosting SCADA softwares. We have always had the mind to actually be able to boot and run our SCADA software on this, and we can do that soon, I believe, when Java 17 gets stable. But that's we will be there. And if you look at the other things from this bootcamp, I will show you how control machines how it was named then is now THMI have evolved, and some of Energy Machines customers have been their return on investment plans of 7 years have been successful, and control machines of THMI now have been a key part or key role of delivering that. So that's it's a really fun work I have because we're doing great software for great things. I will show some live sessions from a hospital or a new building in New York, projected to cut down 80% of carbon emissions, and I think that's very what we should focus on today. But yeah, back to the title here. Cluster on a cluster. So what I try to do here is to, I think it's, yeah, it's like this, yeah. Beg your pardon. So cluster of cluster, I mean, if you start with Google and the Borg, the software clustering, which have been provided to Google with their, the backend strengths. We don't know yet when it emerged or what year it was created, but around 2008, there's some papers on saying. And then we have what's called the LXC, the Linux container base by IBM, around 2008 as well. And what Docker you may be familiar with, released 2013, and they were using LXC in the beginning, and now they're not using it. And as you can see, this is a brief history of the first quarter of the 21st century of modern software, right? I will not go deeper into this. I think you have your own picture of that. But I would just like to point out that my vision with this presentation was actually get VMS up and running and managed by Kubernetes. And Kubernetes is mainly to manage containers in pods, right? But there was a project released called KubeVirt, which is using KVM to manage virtual machines as to Kubernetes pods or containers. And that, I think, is really strong to have one place to be able to manage all of your software, if they're a container or a virtual machine. I think your Open VMS applications will be categorized as a VMS container, but it's a virtual machine. Could be. And I'm sorry to say that I didn't get this up on Kubernetes, so that's why I get into the Proxmox, the provider. They are celebrating now 20 years, an Austrian company providing that software. So, but they are having virtual machines and LXC containers. And LXC containers are sharing the same kernel, which the hardware is running. And yeah, we had our own hardware project going here in machines, and with the same vision to have our SCADA and SCADA and control logic for our heat pumps to be the same unit, basically. So to bridge the gap between the microcontrollers and PLCs and the modern computers of hosting SCADA softwares. And that I think we were successful to a level, but we couldn't compete with the giants. As Bosch celebrating 225 years as a company, releasing their own hardware based on Ubuntu Core, which is a containerized operating system as well. And they are, as 25 years of age, they were giving all of the customers a warranty of 25 years of spare parts. And even if we are energy machines rebels, yeah, we have other areas to focus on, and also the whole enterprise. So this is something we couldn't do, but it was great fun. And Kubernetes, as you know, there's a high threshold to maintain that. I'm not certified, authorized to manage Kubernetes clusters, so that's why I'm using something called Talos Linux, which is from Sidero Labs, and also having a software as a service Omni to manage Kubernetes. I mean, manage Kubernetes you are using on AWS or Google Kubernetes Engine, Amazon Elastic Kubernetes Engine as well. All of these giants have their managed Kubernetes environments for you. And there's also private cloud vendors like Bbyte or other software as a service or consultants as a service in Sweden, for example, Elasticist, which are ISO 27000 certified, providing you a managed cluster. And all of these I've been looking into, and but but what Teracloud and Talos Linux is providing, that's something really new, I believe. And they have been there for 6 years, and I'm going to show you some live demo later on to demonstrate the difference here. And we're going to also, as Camille did for 9 months now, he was moving one OpenVMS client from one node to another using VMware Motion, VMware Sphere. So now we're going to use that, do that for the Proxmox. But the future problem, yeah, this is obvious, right? I believe you all agree. This morning on the news, I heard that the Swedish traffic agency was reporting about the incident that had 2023 when hackers entered their network of testing new technologies for the upcoming highway around by Stockholm. So they found out that hackers had planted some softwares, and yeah, they could proceed to the next step to actually do something there. And this was known back in September 2023. Today, it was released that actually these hackers had access to the traffic agency systems for 3 weeks. So all of their data was compromised. The hackers was able to create new users and everything. And this is, I mean, this is just one of the incidents. Many more to come for sure. I mean, as you've seen out in the world, it's the modern warfare today is cyber. And that's why I believe that we have to, organize ourselves, simplify what we do, be compliant with standards. But yeah, that's easy to say, but hard to deliver. But if you don't follow up with this, you might end up with products here in Sweden, which was sold for cars to be monitored remotely, depending on 2G and 3G. And this mobile carrier, it was shut down earlier this year. So I had a colleague, he bought something for his car, which was working for 3 months, and then it will stop working. And can that be legal? I don't think so. But before we start the demo, I would like to highlight some of the, more of actually the hardware here itself. This is a industrial computer, 9 watts in TDP, 4 cores, Intel Atom, no fan, no moving parts. And these are what we're installing our control cabinets for our machines. We also have attached a 4G, 5G antenna here, and that's why I would like to point out actually that now we're going to use, if I have been successful to having Kubernetes executing on this, or now Proxmox, but there is a virtual layer there of Linux doing the hardware abstraction. So drivers for this 4G router in here is coming from the Linux abstraction. We don't need these drivers to be available in VMS. I mean, the virtual layer could do that. And that's why I think it's, don't take me wrong, but there's also work to be able to, and there was have been successful work to boot VMS on small hardware like this, and successful. But I think the future is still the virtual way. And so I think if there's no more questions, I will show some printouts on the CPUs and everything like that. Otherwise, we will start. I'll share my screen so you can. Probably if anyone online or not, I will speak. I don't know if they can hear me. I'm sure. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was what I was talking about before, right? Brad Cameron, and yeah, Brad did a great presentation on Scala in general, what it is, supervisory controlling and data acquisition, the incident with the traffic, Swedish traffic agency, yeah, that kind of software, mission critical software, basically our Scala systems, and yeah, I claim we are still the next generation, right? After 10 years doing this, but if you look at the Internet of Things, but in that Industry 4.0, as I can, we are being Industry 5.0 then. Yeah, we have been slow developed, and this is for us hard to bridge these worlds, right? And now we would like to, with our advanced SCADA software, also connect it to the interworld to have like ancillary services or machine learning capabilities to improve the efficiency of the energy systems. We need to bridge these worlds. But if you have SCADA softwares which have been really old and there's no really security in protocols like Modbus, still one of the most popular one, or BACnet is not really strong either in security. Modbus acting as a direct memory, you would be able to turn off heat pumps just writing FFF to the IP address space. Yeah, but this is everything. And if you look at my part of this presentation, I'm just going to share you my vision because it's haven't changed, right? We want to be number one, and during these years we have expanded with more people than ever working on this, and this year going to start delivering PHMI publicly. That's great. So if you look at some of the products we have here on the Machines Cloud now. So this allows Air Machines energy engineers to connect to the sites they have. This hospital in the north, right? I would say commissioning myself the heat pumps. They have an investment, expected return of investment in 7 years, and that was achieved on time. And now they have invested in a geothermal borehole, which was back then listed as 26th largest in the world, 2015. And so depending on the day and the operation scenarios there, we could save them a nurse salary in 3 days. So that's great. And hospitals, yes, this is a job application. We were also exposed for the Log4j security issue back in 2020, if I remember right. But we could log in and patch this during the very day it was publicly available.
Is this live?
This is live. If you look on another project we're spinning up now in New York, yeah, our vision is supposed to we should have lost on all of this building, because this estimations, also I told you in the beginning, we're going to do a cut on the carbon emissions by 80%, mainly by reducing, moving the energy and recovering the heat produced already in the building. Here we have different floors. We have the main floor here, which more 5 heat pumps, lobby. What we had to do here was actually to provide capability to go between the metric system and the imperial system. This we could do quite easily, as this HMI is a web application. So how we develop this, and yeah, when we get the data out, we just convert it on the fly. Zoom here, right? I'll leave another running. Running. And the last example of this, yeah. So that's basically, yeah, if you can also support more stylish pages like this, for example, all vector based, so you can understand what's going on, all the data we're getting from all the sensors we're storing, so we can go back in time, see how it was performing in 2021 in July 15. I would remember it was a hot summer day. Yeah, so now every read second would be 1 minute. So it was 30, almost 32 degrees outside. We're using water to chill this out down to set points. Target set point of 18, but we at least achieve the 21 degrees. Yeah, if you just go quickly to you will see. Yeah, but now to the demo of the real thing here, and I'm not a VMS expert. Just a disclaimer. But I got the cluster up, so I own the title. But first, we're going to check the software I have on this hardware, because I have let's see now. We have 2 VMS nodes and 1 LXC container executing on this. So as you can see, we're going to start with that one. Start it now. Yeah, now this Proxmox. Another alternative so that otherwise never. So as you're very familiar with. One more time on that. It works. And the same thing for the Linux container.
So that's just a virtual.
Yeah, so Proxmox is a customized Debian kernel.
Okay.
Running 6.5 the Linux kernel, and that's great because the 6.5 and the 6.8 Linux kernel is having these drivers for the modem. But if I just log in. Log in. Yeah, I will. We're going to log into the Debian Linux container here later because I need to unlock my keeper and we do it just now. This was not wrong. Meanwhile, I'm doing so. Then I'm going to do a read demo. And this hardware is have 8 gigabytes of RAM, 2 VMS nodes and 1 Linux node. And there's room for more. security. Good thing. All right. Okay, that's very strange.
I don't think it paged anything.
No. That's fine. After. I learned actually Proxmox this weekend, and yeah, here we are.
There it is.
So here you can see the Debian version. Also, CPU info of the Atom processor. There's not really much of reasons going on here. And if I would like to install our Edge component of HMI, oh, this looks pretty nice. So this is, yeah, this is 2 VMS and a Linux container on one hardware. If you now go to what is really exciting about, because I learned a lot about VMS during doing this, is actually to go to another cluster, real cluster of 2 of these sitting in the Malmö office, as you can see here on this photo. Or photo is a video stream, but it's a 1 frame per second. And the idea here now is that we're going to move one VMS node to the second hardware. Then we reboot the first hardware now, because that's what you have to do with Linux, right? Not VMS. And yeah, as Camille showed, demonstrated this for 9 months ago and doing that on VMware Motion. This is Proxmox, and one thing I would like to highlight about this software is that, yeah, if I log in and log out now, you will see a message, there's no subscription activated for this software. And that's fine to use if you change the repository, so you're not using the enterprise repositories. On the other Proxmox, I have paid $10 a month, which I think is a nice price to get this kind of technology, as you're also supporting open source. So that's one I would like to say. But this is, as you can see here on the data center, on the repositories. So this is what you have to do, basically. You have to disable the enterprise repositories, and then you select non-subscription to be aligned with the license. And it's for free.
Non-commercial.
Oh, no, this is enterprise repository. So
Oh, it is?
yes. And yeah, as we can see here, I have 2 VMS nodes, 92-3 community license. There's 2 different consoles here, that's why no VNC. That's going to get us into the VMS here as well.
Did you have to do anything special to set up the OpenVMS on this
Proxmox? Not really. I mean, I did this weekend. I failed with the Kubernetes, so I fall back to Proxmox. I know I remember. Yeah.
So the serial port, which we had problems with, when we were using VMware. We didn't have any problems getting connected to the serial port.
Not in the first boots. I added this console-based serial port. So if the TCP/IP is not working, then it would not work either. But otherwise, this is basically the steps I did. Yeah, I downloaded the community file and converted KML copy and write to file, where optimized KML environment, and then I attached the disk to. Yeah, we can actually maybe do it afterwards if you like to see it. And this one I had to add. But this I remember already from 2017. We had some problems with the high performance and time. This I had to add. And then I disable security. Yeah.
In the new versions that are out of VMS, you don't need to use serial console.
No,
It's a functional console.
yeah, you can actually.
The 93.
Yeah, you can activate the OPA 0 when you're in first boot.
Yeah.
So we can try. We can try that. I think we're on time. Actually, I will just start this demo. It just take 1 minute to move one, etc. Because this is nothing really. And here I'm not going to waste your time. This one you all know. Yeah, you should always change password. But I got help today, and I would also like to thank Anders Johansson and Debbie, because I set this up myself. And yeah, when you're joining a cluster, you're supposed to have a unique name, right? A unique DEC address. So somehow I forgot some stuff there in the instructions. So I could boot, of course, but there was no TCP this time. What I'm going to do now is just doing a regular ping game. I'm going to ping these devices from each of them. So we take this one to be on 48, and we do it for 222 packages to keep it going. After that, and this one then be 48 and 47. Yeah, here we go. See the milliseconds there. So now I just right click on this one, migrate it to the other physical hardware. Same. There's no network disk here, so what we're going to do is to physically move the disk itself, which VMS is using, all the disks, from this one to the other one. Now we can see here we're moving. It's an 8 GB disk. It's a small disk for this demonstration, of course. But yeah, things going good, and hopefully nothing will happen on your right side here. It takes some minutes. And yeah, live migration, I think it's a great thing, and virtualization, because probably I would like to update the Linux middleware on this one sometime. And then the idea is, yeah, okay, I move my containers or the virtual machines to another physical host on site as a cluster, right? And then I upgrade it, and move it back. Kubernetes, they are doing this automatically. But Proxmox does not. So Kubernetes also being a more recent technology and really on everyone's mind, thought it might be Yagni, you ain't gonna need it because you're too small. But some of you are large enough, and probably you have Kubernetes classes already. I have a good question to ask the audience. Is anyone using Kubernetes? Yeah. Oh, we're done. Did I distract you too much to miss the glitch?
We didn't see any loss.
No. Ta-da! So if you now,
Can I just ask, is it two hosts, your PC and that box?
there's two of these.
There are two of these.
Yeah, this one is a good back camera and this one.
Okay.
And just to make sure we just reboot one of these physical devices. And you see this going on the right side as well. We'll maybe see something happen here. This is Ethan. Yeah, probably not see any LEDs going off. But Proxmox is quite slow. It takes a lot to boot. Yeah, here we see this one. Down. Now spools again.
So the other one is remote.
Remote.
Yeah, it's not here.
No. This is my office. So I'm using a VPN to connect there. Yeah, good point.
Oh, God.
Yeah, sorry. The detail. I mean, yeah. This is the Malmö office, so there's a rack. If you would like to see it, we're just having the office over there. But this is, and you can see here on the here you can see a PLC, a Danfoss brand. So this is supposed to be simulating a control cabinet, our heat pumps or the energy central. So let's see if the second one have started again. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, we can start this again and move it back. But I think we're done with the demo on this, and I would like to show you a small demonstration of the Talos Linux and Kubernetes and their Omni SaaS, because they also have that's a holiday license for $10 a month too. But you get a Kubernetes, managed Kubernetes, and you're allowed to install it on 10 nodes. And I achieved to get KubeVirt installed and all that, but also like some of the experience in Kubernetes, even I had hard to get it, yeah, the VMS image to boot. Yeah, so. Yeah, and as you could see in the image, this hardware has 3 NICs. So one NIC is dedicated to move all the data and keep the cluster in sync. And you could, of course, bond 2 of these NICs. Double fine. Yeah. But this is all in line with other presentations on the slide migration of virtual machines. And now there's not really much of load on this host, and they don't really have much of resources either. But KubeVirt and Proxmox, I mean, live migration, it works. It might not try it out. I learned all of this in one day.
Do you know if there's like a small downtime when they migrate?
Yeah, have a look now. Task okay.
I mean, like,
I mean, there's no milliseconds here. So I mean, these are sitting on the same LAN, right? So it might be a small glitch. We don't see it in the logs here, right? We had to stress this more. This is yeah, as I said at the beginning of this demonstration, this is a state community-driven presentation.
Just over, you can lose one IC. Because at first it just copies all the data, it keeps running on one machine, and then it copies the raw memory to the other machine. And at the point of switching, there can be a latency.
I think, yeah, if you look here on this, right, yeah, it's have a limit of 100 milliseconds there, for example. So there is something happening which is downtime of this. Yeah. Okay, next virtual machines here. Let me stop this. Another.
I can maybe add that, in motion or, is basically something which is happening in operational centers every day. And it's even done without, notifying the change management control. It's a standard change. I think, this just really glitch. And I've heard for years, I've not heard any complaint about virtual machines being used.
Yeah, I think that's been very successful on that. And that's why I also think that Kubernetes and the cloud and native computing foundation, CF, is also supporting KubeVirt now, and Red Hat is also since 2023 is putting quite a lot of efforts and resources to get KubeVirt to be enterprise graded. And yeah, just to talk about Talos Linux for Zero Labs, I mean, forget everything you know about Linux. It's quite a bold statement. I got my interest in that. And if you read the forums and what's going on the internet, this is the new cool kid in the block. It's so minimal. I will create one on the Hyper-V here now, but it's 100 megabytes. It's Linux kernel plus 12 binaries to get Kubernetes up and running. If you compare that to a Ubuntu server, for example, they have 2,000 plus binaries. So this is only Kubernetes. There's no SSH. You only communicate with the edge nodes using APIs. Yeah, please.
Can I ask, is any thought about migrating OpenVMS to a true, what is called, container application? So it's not, making it as a container application instead of running on top of the virtual machine or hypervisor?
Like data? Yeah. I maybe Robert, you have better answer that, but I don't know.
What was the question?
Not, making OpenVMS as a container, a native container?
No, we don't have that right now, because then you need to build up sort of in VMS and understanding for how to unpack the containers and run them.
Exactly.
I don't think we have an effort for that right now, but it's probably possible to do. I mean, VMS has a lot of features, so you could probably add it, because you can do that with Windows. You can run it in Windows, but you need Windows to understand the same sort of container system as well.
That would really be modernized.
Yeah. Then you would run a VMS at the bottom, and you could manage containers like that. Yeah.
It's just a container.
Yeah.
You probably need something like clouding for that.
Yeah, you need to add a few things to VMS, but you also need to create separate process spaces and so on, so they separate from each other. But from the main VMS, you would still see them, of course.
Yeah, but if you have like clouding, because the dynamic deployment of pods requires something like that. Otherwise,
it needs to be
the same
sort of self-configure itself when you boot it up, that sort of things. Yes.
True. But what about the VLIX thing we're doing,
That's a completely different one.
where we run VMS in a container?
It's trying to run VMS images and understand them, but it's not really a VMS pod. It's sort of a library you can compile with, and it would behave like VMS, but it wouldn't handle ASTs, I think. There are many things where it gets tricky when you do it that way.
Right.
But if you implement it directly on VMS, I would say it's probably doable, but we would have to discuss it with Camille, I guess.
But David, what we've been talking about, why can't we just run OpenVMS on these edge computing devices?
I mean, yeah.
As you used to run these clusters of in a heat pump, we got hundreds of
Yeah,
things that are could be potentially internet connected or you know, but we can't, right? Because we don't have all the drivers, so we have to run it on
Exactly,
top
that's
of
the point, right? And that's
on top
also,
of,
there have been successful attempts of putting OpenVMS on a bare hardware. There was a presentation in Boston last year on that.
On Square 2, for example.
Yeah,
Things
to
that can do that. So
but I would still say that having the virtualization layer, providing us all the drivers Linux will have. And now with Thales things I'm going to demonstrate, it's just a very small middleware, a middle layer, and you get the orchestration of the virtual machines of VMS as Kubernetes pods or containers, which is doing all of this stuff of live migrations, everything like in automation, self-healing, and so on. I see we're running out of time, but no, I mean, I think this discussion is great. I think that's why.
Just, I just see container is really growing at the moment, and getting, even more. And people are looking for, true container-based applications.
Yeah.
Which they can throw in.
Yeah, I mean, that's also, I believe, is the future. But I think virtual machines is also here to stay because, and if you can have one tool to manage both of them, it's much easier to be security compliant, much easier to follow standards, routines, documentations, training, etc. But here, yeah, let's go back here then. So, yeah, quite bold move. I think, yeah, you can go into this later yourself, but they have this offering of $10 a month, equal to the Proxmox, but this is Kubernetes on the edge. This is much more new. This is hard to do. I mean, to set up a Kubernetes cluster yourself is a high threshold. And yeah, there's great documentation here. You can try out some of these guides. It's already written here on how to install KubeVirt on Thales. It was nothing I did find that, did on myself. Great presentation as well from a person who is certified Kubernetes technician and expert, and he also had problems in a way, but yeah. Long story short, I needed to add some of the multis for like multiple NIC network interfaces for the pods that is needed, and otherwise I also tried to just use the local storage on this hardware. And there is by Rancher there is something called Longhorn, which is a clustered storage solution. Yeah, I forgot to mention that on Proxmox you have Ceph, another cluster storage solution which can be used there. But if we just execute this command to get into KubeVirt, I used using forward, and you didn't see it before, but this Kubernetes cluster Omni manager is hosted on their data center. So I'm using OIDC to authenticate myself. And now I can actually go to this KubeVirt manager. It's a user interface implemented by some person, so I can see my nodes and so on. And here was the idea to be able to virtual machine, great one, as I did with Proxmox. Yeah, start out with adding the images I would like to use, etc., and so on. But I didn't get farther than this. But I would like to eventually just, we're running out of time now, but if you would like to see to start a Thales on the Hyper-V and Microsoft Windows hypervisor, see how fast it boots and how fast it connects to the cluster, and then how we can reboot it, you're welcome to stay. But yeah, time is ticking. I know that it's your essence as well, and we are going to have less time in future.
So OpenVMS run on Hyper-V?
No, this is Thales Linux.
Okay.
And Hyper-V, you don't support it.
No.
But we still do it.
So what I did here when I prepared this earlier is that I added to this because that was Thales Linux requires, because it's using the same technology as Chrome OS. In a sense, or like Fedora Silverblue 42 is atomic, so it's just two partitions one partition to hold the current state, and the second partition to hold the recent version of the operating system. So it's truly atomic, and that's why if it's fails to boot the new upgrade of itself, it falls back to boot the earlier version. And then the second disk here is used for the Kubernetes itself. And yeah, we added a disk here. Just going to show you quickly the sizes of these. Hyper-V. Yeah, you get it for free, but maybe it's not the best. But you can see here that the metal installation of the Thales Linux, we should download from the Omni managed Kubernetes to provide all the encrypted keys and so on. It's just 100 megabytes. If you activate secure boot, it's 200 megabytes. And yeah, if you compare that to the Proxmox, it's 1.5 gigabyte. And Alpine standard 250, yeah, you see, it's very small. And if we start this up now, what's going to happen is it's phoning home to the cluster, which is managed by the Omni. And then as you saw, I will have to accept this machine to join the cluster. And yeah, you can see it's 8 cores there. Yeah, done, booted. Now it connects to the .2 their environment. Yes, I admit I also have one dot this URL. But yeah. So from here now, okay, look up that was not good. I have a problem now with the yeah, live demonstrations. We can make a try. Okay, yeah. Oh. Let me try this one. So you see,
Yes.
quick boot, but they didn't have any internet access.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Okay, now we get an IP address from the, yeah. I blame Hyper-V. You can do it yourself. So if we go now back to my other virtual machine. And yeah, that's the scaling. And now you see this machine appear there, 8 cores. It's a worker. Yeah, we don't need to go into details there, but between the worker and control panel of Kubernetes, you have a set of control panels. I mean, the org manager basically, and then you have worker nodes, which is executing the pods and containers and the softwares and some machines in this case. So we just install it one of these disks. Should be okay button here somewhere. Okay. Yeah, but this is the idea actually of the process. And I don't know why it doesn't work anymore, but and when that's done correctly, this will reboot, and then it's part of the cluster. And if you have a virtual machine as an OpenVMS, you would be able to move that to this worker.
Is that the Kubernetes interface what you're looking at now? What is that? Sorry, I'm.
No, this is the good questions. I think I'm cutting corners here as we're running out of time, but this is Thales Linux.
Thales Linux.
Yeah.
And that's compared to Kubernetes?
Thales Linux is operating system hosting Kubernetes. So it's a Linux operating system, and the only thing they do is actually hosting Kubernetes.
It's very slimmed down.
So that's why it's so small. It's
This
actually
is just an execution node for a Kubernetes cluster.
exactly. So you cannot do any more than host Kubernetes, and whatever you host on Kubernetes will be executed on this edge node.
Yeah, basically like an ESX, VMware wise, it's very tight down and can do very little. And the small code, and we can run the application on top.
And you gain a speed of Chrome OS. They have a boot time of 7 seconds. I think they are fast, because and also they have this atomic fail safe mechanism. If you upgrade Thales Linux, was I was supposed to show you, but yeah, I don't get it working. It can go back to the earlier version of Thales Linux, because this is Thales Linux version 1.9.5. They have a version 1.9.6. In this interface, you see it. See here that I will have I can upgrade my nodes to a recent version of the Thales Linux. And that's the underlying layer, right? And when you click this button, what Kubernetes will do for you automatically is to move around the containers and the virtual machines. And all Kubernetes is a declarative. There's setup. I mean, you don't SH to any host or do any changes. You configure this Kubernetes cluster by deploying patches or daemon sets to describe what's supposed to happen.
Did you do any changes to OpenVMS IP-wise to give it? Did you fix the IP addresses there, or what did you do anything there?
On the Proxmox? On the
in OpenVMS, inside OpenVMS, did you do anything there?
No, I mean they are the DHCP.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I didn't.
You just rely on.
Yeah,
DHCP.
you just rely on that. You can start up a new one on Proxmox if you would like to see. More questions?
So how containers run on both Thales Linux through Proxmox as a VM? Because Kubernetes is supposed to run containers. But
yeah, Kubernetes is using something called KubeVirt, which is it's like KVM, KMU installations on the Kubernetes. So instead of just executing containers, it can also execute virtual machine like pods.
It's a slimmed down QEMU basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I failed with the Kubernetes setup. That's why I was falling back to the Proxmox. I was going back 10 years in history of the first quarter of the 21st century software, and that's I saw the Proxmox and this demo of moving them one Saturday. I got help from Anders and Debbie to guide you to set up clusters and etc. and so on. But if you're using the community image of VMF 9.2.3, 9.2-3, the thing you have to change is no names and the deck 1.1 to be something unique, right? And that's for the clustering. But to install the OpenVMS on this, I got the list here. I can go through it and can deploy another VMS on this one if you would like. Question?
So when you move a machine around, it still keeps its own address, suppose.
Yes, because the IP address is not. Proxmox is passing through that, right? But the VMS is communicating to the router, provide the DHCP router server. The DHCP server, in the router. VMS is communicating to that. Proxmox is just passing through that. So
Keep the same MAC addresses, so therefore it will still be able to.
yeah, the virtual machine is like this, right? It's have the MAC addresses and everything. What's going on in here? That's virtualization. Good topics. More questions or?
A little warning. I tried to do a show net within OpenVMS, and that gives a very strange, at least for the community package, it gives an IP address which I don't know about. You go into UCX and say show interface, and then you get the right IP address.
Yeah.
So that was, I don't know why, but I had to find out before you.
I have also seen it. And,
just make sure that you pick up the address in the right place.
But even the DHCP, there's IP address on 10.10 something. But if you look at the interface, you will see.
Just look at the interface.
Yeah, the shownet is showing wrong. But I actually got shownet to actually show the correct IP address. So there's a tossing the coin.
I don't know where that came from. I'll have to find.
But yeah. Okay. More questions or otherwise I can spin up a VMS. I'm sorry I failed on the Talos Linux, but you don't need to pay to try it out. It's a trial as an event.
And then it's $10 if you want to just
to continue.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm paying Proxmox now $10 a month. I'm paying Talos for $10 a month just to get this hospital managed.
Or you're getting ruined.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
Proxmox,
it's really cheap.
I mean,
It's manageable.
Yeah, exactly.
and
Okay.
yeah.
The Scala, was that? That's not the Scala product. Was that also $10?
No.
No, that's your product, isn't it?
But I mean the computer. I mean we are community, maybe a home usage of Scala software.
I need
Could be done for free because it's so small. But our Scala HMI, we're dealing with 50,000 or more tags or variables, and that's just supposed to it's very resource efficient, but we need to maintain it because.
Did you have any issue of Scala product being actually connected to the internet? Because this is like OT, environment. I mean, they are very sensitive to internet connectivity.
Yeah,
when you have this kind of application. So,
I mean,
it's not open. We can take it after.
No,
but it's having Scala product, systems controlling grids, power, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That
hospitals. I mean, if our solution goes down, maybe they will not be cooling enough for the medical equipment, and people could die.
Exactly.
But we try to take security on the first hand. That we're using things like this to really make sure the only thing that could I don't know allow anyone to enter by having a gun to their head, right? But that's.
I work with the grid, the power grid in Denmark. And they basically said there's only one security, that's air around the machine.
Mm.
So.
Yeah, this but I think we need to change that as well. And I think bridging these worlds, you should rely on secure hardware, but also software. And I think the virtualization and all this is here to stay.
I told you, take a USB device and put that into this, unsecure environment, bang, it will kill it immediately. So you don't need to run a high security environment. Otherwise it will come in eventually to your system.
Yeah, yeah. Probably soon we'll have drones flying into Windows and
Exactly.
it's nothing. I think we're a lot to worry about, but there is a lot of technologies out there to actually protect us.
Yes.
And we have to be proactive in that regard. So yeah, thank you very much for your time and attention and all the questions. I'm happy to discuss this later. Have a good day.